Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Thanks so much for dropping by. There's some moments in life where we just feel carried along. And for me, that's when I feel really connected to the divine, I just feel carried along. And of course, when things are going the way I want them to. And then there's the moments where I don't feel so connected to the divine and or where things are bumpy. And that is, in English, we have an expression, that's where the rubber meets the road, meaning that is the time and place where we need our spirituality more than ever. Bruno Groening said, what you need to do and must do in every situation of apparent danger is to maintain your connection to the world above through faith and trust. Meaning that when things aren't going well, when we're not feeling well, when something scary is happening, that is when we need to reach for God the most. And that's when it's oftentimes hardest. When we're in a place of fear, when things are challenging. I personally, that's where it's hardest to reach out to God and to have faith and trust. And paradoxically, that's where we need it the most. So let's find a way to cement that. Let's practice for a moment. Really, and part of what's behind this is I had a challenging situation happen about an hour ago. And, I don't, there's some uncomfortable feelings and so forth and so on. And what I've recognized is like, oh, this is the moment that I need faith. Like, yes, it's wonderful to walk down the street feeling all this love and feeling faith, but it's when things are hard. That's when I need faith the most. So let's take a moment or two and reflect on this. That part of this journey is going to be facing challenges and learning a new reaction or cultivating a new habit, a habit of faith. Really reaching out to the divine. Mark Dentor wrote, 3 a.m. in Germany, but Bruno is awake, I am sure. I don't think Bruno sleeps very much. I think he's constantly active. When he was in his body, he would say that his body would sleep, but that he would be off praying for people and doing work. So I'm pretty convinced he's awake and active. Wouldn't it be nice if everything just went exactly the way we wanted it to? And that's not been my experience, and I have yet to meet a human being for whom that is. And when things don't go our way, or even when bad things, challenging things happen, that's when it's very easy to, I don't want to say easy, that's where many humans have the habit of letting their faith go. It's almost as if the painful thing, people use it as proof to say, oh, well, there must not be a God, or oh, this is terrible, or oh, something along those lines of really losing their faith and losing their serenity. And again, isn't that when we need faith the most? When things are challenging, Again, it's so easy to feel good and have faith when everything's just flowing along and we feel good and this good thing happens and that good thing happens and that good thing and just one thing after another and it's like, oh God, you're so great. And then one bad thing happens and it's like, oh, and that's the moment where we need faith. That's the moment where I need faith, is those bumps. Sometimes they're small bumps, and sometimes they're very big bumps that can be very jarring. Another thing I've really been sitting with today is how important it is for each one of us to do our individual work, tuning in and reflecting on these teachings and practicing them, and how helpful it is to join with other people who have like minded beliefs so we can support each other. And there's this balance of not not sort of depending on other people and yet doing whatever is helpful. I shared earlier today that there was a certain point in my life where going to church every day, where I was really depending on the building and the ritual and the people. I was really stuck. And so it's not in that situation, that was maybe a very skillful thing to do. And we just want to be mindful that God is, um, what's the only reliable thing in the universe? Everything, look around you, everything changes constantly. We might not see it, but physics tells us that this world is just a whirling cascade of constant movement. We may not see it on the particle level, but if we really look, we'll see that everything in this world is changing all the time. And so, where can we find security? That's what I believe a large part of what this path is about. And um, finding that foundation, that thing we can depend on, that thing we can depend on when things don't go well, the thing we can depend on when we're not feeling good. So let's take a moment and check in with ourselves. Do we believe God is reliable? It's okay if you don't, but let's really ask ourselves, what's my bottom line? What is the thing that I either turn to or that I want to turn to when things aren't going well? taking in the good and inquiring what is what is dependable? What do we want to depend on? Arcantor wrote, Jesus and Bruno were facing great struggles to show us not always to take the easy road. We are here to learn, take decisions to make the evolution to the next stage. Thank you. Bruno spoke of this as life as a school. And one of my favorite verses from the Bible, which now I'm like, I need to practice it more. One of my favorite verses from the Bible is it's in the first couple um, sections from the book of James, where it says, and when adversity comes, celebrate. Basically, when problems happen, celebrate, because problems, and then it says, let patience have her perfect work with you, that you may be made whole and complete, wanting nothing. Translation: when problems happen, recognize them joyfully as an opportunity to strengthen your faith muscle, because faith is the thing that will carry you through. Faith is the thing that's dependable. Like, the most of us have the plan of, okay, I'm going to do things so nothing bad happens to me. Like, I'm going to create this shield, and so nothing, but life doesn't work that way. And as Bruno said, and Jesus said, and Arcantor wrote here so beautifully, that's not necessarily what life is about. That's what we want life to be about, right? Like, we all want to be sipping coconuts on tropical islands, working on our tan 24/7, right? But that's not what the Earth School is about. Certainly, that can be a joyful part of it. So wouldn't that be someone who has been in this path a long time says whenever a challenge comes his way, he visualizes a banner falling from the sky that says the word on it, lesson. I forget whether he said lesson or test, but either way, I personally like lesson. What if these challenges are actually here to help us? And in fact, that's almost exactly what Bruno Groening said. He said, the state of the world. Let's see if I have my book handy. I don't. I'll have to paraphrase. He said, the state of the world is steered by God. Only things that serve as a lesson are allowed to happen for humanity. That doesn't mean we have to like what's happening. It's so important to recognize the underlying spiritual good, even in the things we don't like. So let's sit with all this. It's like, what do we do when we hand over a burden and it doesn't instantly disappear? We can stay in faith, or we can go down into fear. taking in the good, laying our foundation in faith and trust. Bruno Groening said, um, I'm going to try out a little German because I know we have at least one German speaking person on. Vertrauen zum Guten ist die Grundlage der göttlichen Ordnung. Confidence, trust in the good is the foundation, fundamental idea. How would we say it in English? Fundamental principle, the groundwork, that's the word, is the groundwork of divine order, divine harmony. It's a very strong statement. You know, it's written that Christ spoke about a foundation that could withstand the waters. Because the temptation is when there's challenges, is to just be like, oh, is to collapse. And what I'm here to learn, and what I believe the essence of what Bruno Groening came here to teach, is to turn that habit around and develop the opposite habit. Instead of collapsing, really stepping into faith, into trust. And here on the Earth School, that can be so challenging. I was just speaking with someone who's healing PTSD. And when they have a PTSD trigger, it's like, he described it as almost unbearable. That it's so intense and so uncomfortable. And, we don't have to have PTSD to be able to identify. Sometimes just such intense thoughts and feelings happen that it's just like we can feel like we're going crazy. That's the moment where we need to reach out to our dear friend Bruno Groening, reach out to the divine. So let's take a moment and tune in and ask for any specific situations in our own life, handing the burden over to Bruno. Let's let's decidedly affirm and declare our commitment to the good and to be vigilant for what's not good, specifically. Evil's number one tool is negative, untrue thinking. So to be very vigilant with our thoughts. Let's remind ourselves not to dwell on burdens. Today I was talking with a friend of mine who was coming down with a cold, and I was shocked how many times I thought about it after the fact. It wasn't even my cold. So it's one thing to be mindful of, like, hey, I want to send some extra prayers and love for this person. It's another thing to think, oh my gosh, they're getting sick over and over and over. Not good for me, not good for them. Let's ask for complete healing for ourselves and trust that it will come. It's not necessarily going to come in the timing that we want. And Bruno Groening said, the good will prevail. So trusting that it will come. And let's remember that we're here in school. And part of being here on the Earth School is when things are challenging, facing the challenge and stepping forward with faith. It's not the easiest thing to do. All right, dear ones, thank you so much for joining in. I'll have a silent tuning in a couple of hours at 9 o'clock my time. And I'm very grateful to each person who dropped by today. Thank you so much. Take care. Bruno Groening said, only have faith. What I understand that to mean is if we only learn one thing in this life, it's to have just faith and trust in a higher power. You're very welcome, Arkantor. Thank you.